Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Equalizer. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, this woman, Carla, was on a date with her boyfriend, Keith. Like, they were just driving and stuff like that. Get pulled over by some cops, and he gets shot, and she takes off running, and she calls a secure satellite phone, and that phone ends up being Robin's, and it's like, well, how do you got this number? And it's like, first it seems like maybe her boyfriend's in it, but it's like, nah. Robin's like, I don't know her boyfriend. But then looking at her, it's like, I know this girl, Carla. Her dad, Henson, David Henson was a CIA agent who died 2 weeks ago, and she knew Carla. So it's like, okay, so it's like her dad must have given her my phone number as an emergency. He was a good guy, so like, I'm going to do whatever I can to help. And so it was really interesting. The thing is, I've seen some shows do this. I'm trying to think. I feel like CBS-wise, I feel like Person of Interest did something like this, but I definitely know, I think Blind Spot had an episode like this in season 4. I'm surprised the entire episode didn't end up being this, but I was curious, like, most of the episode ends up being, like, obviously we see Robin, Harry and Mel, we kind of focus on that, and then like everything's like focused on like what Carla's up to, whether it's like from the satellite, her running through the forest, which I love that basically Harry had to like give like it to some guy he knew. It was like a Russian hacker, so he could get access to like a Russian satellite. And it's like this thing is it's thing I love, and like Mel's like, oh my god, you love that thing. It's like, yeah, the guy's like 5 something, nearly 250 pounds. It can't even fit him. He's just taking it just to get revenge at me because I wouldn't let him hack Bitcoin or something like that. So, but I thought the whole episode was going to be like from that perspective of we just get their perspective and just we see Carla through monitors and stuff like that. Because at first it's like a thermal imaging photo from the satellite, but then when she gets inside the building, it turns into like they're looking at the security cameras because they're like connecting to her because she left the SIM card outside and she was using a Wi-Fi to communicate with them. So I thought that's kind of what we're going to do most of the episode, but and then obviously like they get boots on the ground later on in the episode. But a lot of interesting things do come up. Like, for example, Carla is to be fair, we find out she's a journalist, so kind of being in stressful situations isn't something uncommon for her. Because even I was like, wow, she's like, even Robin's like, okay, you can, she's like, no, I know, I got it. And it's like, oh, I was like, wow, she's taking this very well. And then I was like, right, I didn't remember she's a journalist. So she's been into a lot of like, not so great places of like, yeah, like some very bad and dangerous places. So kind of being in hostile territory is kind of nothing new to her. So she's able to handle this. And she ends up bringing up some interesting comments about the fact is that she knows that her dad was the CIA. She found out like a year ago. In fact, they actually had a big blowout because of it. And it led to some like unresolved issues between them. And before he died, they never had a chance to clear the air. She's like, I never had a chance to tell him I loved him. But Robin's like, tells us a really nice story about David about like a IED that she accidentally picked up. And he like told her like that joke. And it was kind of like his go-to thing that like, it's like, oh, Carla's favorite joke, and was able to like pull the IED out of her hand. So like for her, it's like, that's one of my first lessons in keeping calm under a very stressful situation. But she talks about the fact is that David just talked about you all the time, this and that, your broken arm, your medals and stuff like that. Like your dad really loved you. You were always important to him. Everything he did was to protect you, But it is the thing of, and the complicated thing that kind of hits home is, but how do I know, like, everything I thought I knew about my dad was a lie? Like, did I even really know him at the end of the day? And, we never had the opportunity to just talk it out and clear the air. There's just so much issues there. And obviously, we know that, hearing that conversation, you can immediately tell Robin's thinking of her daughter, too, And obviously, that's the situation later on when it's like, Hanson gave me... he had talked about that basic, I forgot what the exact wording was, but it was essentially like, oh yeah, like the darkness of life will get to you if you don't have any joy. And like for him, his joy was Carla, and for Robin, it's Dee. And it's like, for her, it's like, my daughter is the most important thing to me, so I need to like, if I would like, I feel like if I'm not able to help Carla, I feel like I'm letting him down. Like he put his trust in me to look after his little girl, his daughter, if he wasn't around. Which begs the question: who does Robin turn to? I would assume like Harry and Mel, as like if anything ever happens to me. Or to be fair, she has the Aunt Vi to look after her. Which I mean, And plus her dad, like her dad's still in the picture. I'm surprised that doesn't come up yet. Maybe like later on in the season we'll finally get to meet him. Maybe they probably have casted the character, or maybe not. It might be one of those things. It's not till like much later on that the character actually gets casted. I don't know. They might just keep him like fully off screen for most of the show. I feel like there's going to come a point where like he's going to come into the fold, especially when like maybe the truth about what Robin does eventually comes to light. He'll probably start popping up in the story then, because it'll turn into an issue of like, you know, maybe like Dee will just want to not be around her mom anymore and want to move out and live with her dad. So probably at that point, I can definitely see that potentially being a route that they take this story in that case. But nevertheless, this ends up being a very complicated mission, because first and foremost, Bishop wants to help, but he like the time it's going to take to get his his extraction team on the ground, like things could get bad. So she knows someone nearby, so she calls up someone named Allison from former MI6 that she knows. And Allison eventually picks up and is like, yo, I'm willing to, thanks for throwing me some action, you know, kind of get me back in the fold. But also, like, I owe you for Afghanistan. So luckily she shows up. I did think it was weird when she didn't pick up the first time. I was like, oh boy, someone got to her first. So Carla's walking into a trap. But it turns out later on, Allison picks up and it's like, okay, it was good. Like, everything works out. It's like, yeah. But it's still got to get him out. But then later on, it's like, it's not making sense. Like, why they haven't met up with Bishop's extraction team. Well, she had called Dante earlier to talk to, like, one of the guys involved in this. Like, he has a partner that's locked up in Rikers. So she got Dante to eventually talk to him. Home dude's like, yeah, the ghost, like, it's someone that made a deal with the devil himself. And it's like, it's someone you should be really afraid of. It says the name, was it Mason Quinn? And obviously that strikes a chord with Robin, because it's someone she encountered in the past. He's someone that's tried to kill her. He's done some like super terrible stuff. Men, women, and children. Like, what was it? Like, he basically blew up a place just to go after one like high profile like politician or something. Like, that was his target, but he killed like 20 people just to get that one person. So, but it turns out the CIA promised her that he'd be locked up. Like, that's why she didn't gun him down. But then she learns from Bishop that Bishop lied to her and didn't tell her that the CIA actually traded him for another thing. And it's like, well, that's how the CIA works. But for Robin, it's like, you out of anyone should, we're good, we're buddies. Like, you should have come to me and told me the truth about that at the very least. But for him, it's like, if I told you that, you would have gone off half-cocked and everything, because like, this is a personal thing for you. But it's like, yeah, considering all he does, of course it's personal, you know? And so Robin wants to kind of be on the ground to handle things, because she ends up finding out Allison and Carla weren't both kidnapped. Only Carla was. Allison made a deal with Quinn. So obviously landing in France, meeting up with the extraction team. She rolls up on the spot, but it turns out Allison's already dead. And it's like, yeah, of course, Quinn betrayed you. No loose ends type of situation, which is also kind of a shame. Once again, it's like, yeah, it seems like her and Robin were good, especially because of the whole, but once again, that's the sad aspect of the spy game. You don't know who you can trust. If, you know, an ally today is an enemy tomorrow. Hell, for all you know, an enemy today is an ally tomorrow. Like, you just never know how, like, the espionage game can work. It makes, you know, it's not the space for trusting people, because at the end of the day, everyone, including every government, that every, like, top-class agency, whether it be, like, your MI6s, your Mossads, your CIA, everyone's got their own agendas. So it's like, yeah, we're playing friendly now, but it's like, we're doing this only because we're trying to do something else too, or we're trying to work together to screw over. Like, it's just everyone's out for themselves, for trying to look after theirs while trying to screw you over. Because it turns out what this was all about is because David has like a very secure flash drive that has like all the information of like agents hidden in, like, I think Europe or something like that. And so they need the password, so they were kidnapping Carla. Well, they thought that maybe she would know, because they were never trying to kill her. Her boyfriend Keith just happened to be collateral damage, sadly. But when they look into it, when she shows up there, it turns out David's alive. Carla was meant to be an insurance policy. It's like, oh, you're not going to answer us after all this torture? Well, we've got your daughter. Now you're going to answer that. So that's what it comes down to. And also, they were going to kill Robin, but the dude was like, oh no, I got the call, like, not to kill you, like, you're wanted alive. But they end up taking the dude down. Sadly, David dies in a crossfire, and he gets to apologize to his daughter. It's like, I'm sorry, I lied to you. And she's like, it's okay. He's like, everything I did, I want to protect you. I love you. I love you. And she's like, I know, I love you too. And, it's sad. Like, for a moment, it's like, oh my God, my dad's alive. Everything's going to be okay. And just to have him taken just like that, you thought he was going for all this time. And just, luckily they were able to kind of make it peace at the end, but it still sucks that it came down to that, So that's a sad situation there. And obviously when they're leaving, Robin, well, for one, Robin lets Quinn know. He's like, oh, I thought you were alive. It's like, yeah, next time I run into you, Quinn, I'm putting you down myself. And so she lets, Carla know, if you ever need anything, you're not alone. You got my number, I'll call you. And also, like, Carla being like, if you ever need anything from me, I'm here. And I'm curious to see what ends up happening on that front, like, with Carla. Like, what will she need from Carla in the future? Like, I'm not saying she can't provide anything. I'm just so curious, like, what it would be, like, what the circumstances will call for her to, But maybe there's something in the future. I don't know. We'll see. But obviously, this sets up a lot of interesting and complicated things. This whole circumstance complicates her relationship with Bishop, because it's like, you should have told me. But Bishop's like, if I told you, what would you have done? You would have gone off and gotten yourself killed. So, but for her, it's like the company. I expect this of the CIA, keeping information from me, doing this and that, but not from you. The fact of the matter is, right now, do you know what the difference is between you and the CIA? She's like, neither do I. Because that's a very, compartmentalizing, only telling you what you need to know, what they believe you need to know, not what you really need to know. Because for her, because this is a threat. Because also, this presents a complicated opportunity, in the sense that, this is a major threat to Robin's life. It's like, he was like, oh, he immediately recognized Robin being like, oh, snap, you're alive. Now, he could have been a threat she could have never saw coming. Her not knowing he's out and about left her, potentially her family, vulnerable. He's a threat that's going to be coming, and I think that's going to be interesting. Because it's not just him that she has to worry about. Granted, it seems like he's very well connected and powerful, so that's a powerful enemy coming after you and your family. But then there's also the angle of Dante made it clear, which I thought was interesting, because the DA was like, oh, use your relationship, kind of lure her in to get information. But he was like, yeah, now I've helped you out, now we're square. Next time, I'm taking you down. So it's like, she was kind of hoping to kind of mend fences after everything that happened last time. But it's like, no, we're good now, but now, next time, I'm gunning for you. Which is so interesting, because the DA was asking him to do that last episode, but I guess for him, he's like, no, you are trying to help people. Just so for that, I'm giving you fair warning. There's no, the cuffs are coming on next time. And not in a sexy, kinky way that, we set up, this flirtatious relationship, but things could get freaking, real freaking naughty. Quoting Dodgeball. God, I haven't seen that movie in a while. Regardless. It kind of pops all that in your mind of threats on multiple fronts, So there's that. There's also the fact is that you had obviously Nikki kind of bring it up to Delilah, yeah, so what does your mom do? She works for charities. What one? What? It's the most vaguest aspects of what your mom does, but you don't know the specifics. And Delilah's like, well, you think my mom's is she's like, yeah, but apparently you don't really know your mom. So she starts throwing out accusations, they start looking through her stuff. It's they end up finding a floorboard. They're like, oh, maybe we'll find cash or weapons or something in there. Maybe she's an assassin or a spy, which, you were close to that. Or, an arms dealer and stuff like that. But the fact is that, her Aunt Vi shows up and it's like, what the hell are y'all doing? And show the passport. It's like, yeah, this passport, it's stamped. It's like, oh, she must be this and that. I'm messing with you. The fact of the matter is, this is new. She lost her other one, so she had to get a new one. That's why this is that. You girls get out of here. The moment that happened, I was like, Aunt Vi is covering for her. And that moment, it's like, okay. Because there are moments where Aunt Vi is just kind of oh yeah, she is missing dinner. And at one point, she kind of looks at the door. At one point, she just kind of lets out the side. So later on, when Robin does come home, it's like, no, girls are in your room. I have a vague notion. I've always kind of had some idea what you do. Not the specifics, but I had some idea. And she's kind of reluctant to tell us, all right, Aunt Vi, I work for the CIA. And it's like, yo, but I don't anymore. She's like, don't lie to me. It's like, no, legitimately, I quit. I just use my skills to help people. And then she shows her the message board of yeah, these are people that help. And it's what it sounds, when these people have no one else to turn to, they can turn to me. But for her Aunt Vi, it's yeah, these poor people. But it's also this sounds dangerous, Robin. And it's why do you have to be the one? Because for her, it's I can. I have the skill set. I have the backing, the know-how to help them. And when no one else can or will. So But obviously, she also brings up an interesting point of what are you're gonna have to tell Delilah, because Delilah's eventually gonna figure this out because she's a smart girl, and if once that happens, it's gonna change everything. Like Carla had that blowout with her dad, so like obviously that was kind of foreshadowing and kind of like circulating like, oh, this is a possibility what your future could look like. It could lead to Delilah having a lot of resentment for you, especially if she finds out not only that you lied to her, but also like, oh, you were with the CIA, like, because she's probably gonna be asking questions like, what type of work did you do, and you know. Let's not suck around. The fact is, Robin's killed people. We're not even talking about the CIA. She's killed people recently. Hell, on this mission, she killed some people. Yes, they were bad people, but still knowing, like, wait, my mom's killed people? Like, what kind of work did you do for the CIA? It's like, well, there's some stuff she probably can't mention. Some stuff she'd be, but it also might be, because I brought it up earlier, like, that she'll probably end up moving in with her dad. Either as a circumstance of either Mason or Dante come after her. It's like, yeah, she's done a very good job of like covering her trail, but it's still a thing of Dante knows what you look like. He has a photo of you. Not only is Dante coming after you, the DA is putting the full force of everything coming after you. So eventually you're saying like, oh, nothing's going to come back to the family, but it will, because you've got two powerful forces, law enforcement and an international criminal coming after you. So it's not going to be as copacetic as she makes it out to be. So her life is definitely going to get super complicated going forward with all of this. But I'm curious. I think that's kind of interesting too, because like so far we've never had so far in the season we haven't really had a main antagonist. But the introduction of Quinn, I think, sets up like the main antagonist of the season. I mean, I guess you can make the argument like the DA kind of falls in that role of kind of an antagonist to a certain extent, because she's not backing down, because for her, it helps her political career. It could help Dante's career as well. He's more so doing it because like he wants her to stop, because like it's the betterment of everything. But I think some growth and changing of his character going forward in the series might potentially change his mind, where he might be a little more like okay with what she does, but he might just have to have her change up her tactics. But it will probably come a time for him where it's like, I have to rely on her. Like, yeah, there's only so far and so much I can do as a cop, that there is a point where he'll have to turn to her. Either that's going to be part of like the setup of like, I need your help with this. Secretly, I'm working with the DA. I said like, next time I find you, I'm going to catch you. But that might be what it is. Like, the drawing. But luckily, Robin's not working alone. She has an entire team kind of backing her. So she has Mel and she has Harry to kind of back her. And once again, I'm curious, like, is the team going to expand? It's like, I mean, when you look at like, once again, I bring it back to her every time. I know I'm terrible, but person of interest, because that squad grew. Where it started off as just Harold and Reese, like that squad grew into like many other agents and many other characters get mixed up into the fold. So, nevertheless, I'm really interested to see kind of where things take us going forward into the next episode. Like I said, I think Robin's life is only going to get more complicated. Granted, she has her Aunt Vi to like back her play on a lot of stuff, but also she's going to be worried out of her mind, because it's like, now I know what you're up to. Yeah, you're helping people, but it's super dangerous, so... And Vi being the one who knows could put her in danger, because it's like she knows so. I don't know. There might be a crossing of paths between Dante and Aunt Vi, where that turns into a whole situation. I don't know. Like I said, there's many different possibilities of how this can play out. But I'm really interested to find out where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.